Welcome to the Mary Mac Show, where we will be talking about your feelings, experiences, and pain following the death of a loved one. Hello, my friends, my warriors. This is Mary Mac of the Mary Mac Show. I am privileged today to have Jim Rauh with me. He is the individual who started Families Against Fentanyl back in 2019. And he did that after his son Thomas died. Thomas is only 37, and he died in 2015. I'm doing a series called Death by Fentanyl, and this is a very powerful topic, and I've invited many people who know the ins and outs of it, and I wanted you to hear from him as well. So, Jim, thank you so much for being here today. I know you have a lot to teach us, but I'd like to start by asking you to talk about Thomas's early years, when he was growing up, how your family were together. I know he has 4 siblings. Would you tell us about that?
First of all, thank you for having me on, Mary. It's very nice of you.
You're welcome.
My family life was fantastic. I had 5 children, a loving wife. Tommy was the oldest, and his sister followed him shortly after being born. I think they were, I think they call them Irish twins.
Yes, but, yes, when they're born in the same year, technically, or within a year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then my third was a few years longer. And then the fourth was a few more years, like 3 years after that. And then the last one was 4 years, long, year after year. It took me, so we had 5 children. Tom was the leader of all of the kids. He was athletic, intelligent, healthy, handsome, and very free-spirited. He grew up on a wonderful street in Akron, Ohio, where there were lots of kids to play with. We had I was self-employed, and so I would take him to work with me as soon as I could, and then made him work, once again, as soon as I could. And he was adventurous, creative, diligent, wonderful. And we saw nothing but greatness in our futures, and real achievements that we thought that we could do with our inventions and our chemistry and the physics that we were playing with. And he came, after school, he would come to work with me while he was still, in middle school. I would take him there even as a child. So he did very well with his classmates. He was socially integrated very well. He loved music. He loved his sisters and brothers, and he was living the life until he got into a rollerblading accident. Went to see a doctor. Got some, I believe, I forget which form of opiate that he got initially, whether it was a Percocet or whatever type of.
Like a
I think
Vicodin or
they're back.
something?
Yeah, I believe they were Vicodin to
Vicodin
begin
or
with.
oxycodone? Hmm.
Yes, and then he liked them, and then later on, and later on after that, when he had his teeth done, he got some more of them. But this time, it was close to a year later or so. He went and got another prescription. He liked them a lot, and then a rollerblading accident. I don't know where he started getting the pills from then, if he went to the doctor, but that one persisted. He started taking them, he liked them an awful lot. And then as he was coming to work, about that time, he's turning 18, and he was working, in the summer times and other with us. And his performance, he's like acting strange, and, his personality was changing somewhat, his lackadaisical, about his ambitions, and he just was different. You know, I
Hmm.
it, I knew what it was like to be intoxicated. I mean, I was no I wasn't dry myself. I was drinking a considerable amount of liquor and had since I was a young man. And I didn't get. I had tried cocaine, but I knew that it was too good to be true.
Hmm.
That's something I would have a hard time putting down, and I couldn't afford it with the wife and 5 kids.
Sure.
And but I could see the compulsion in that. A couple little these people used to have a little pen thing or whatever, and they turn it like a one hitter, and they would turn a little knob, and it would just a little bit of cocaine would go in there, and like a little bullet thing, and they'd snort it up their heads while we were working, moving
Wow.
machinery or doing different things.
That's
So
scary.
what the hell
They
are
could
you
hurt
doing?
themselves. Yeah.
The hell are you doing? It's like, oh, when you're moving heavy machinery or doing hard work or different stuff, and you're getting pooped out, they found this stimulant that you could get, at the bar, and nobody knew what cocaine was. So I guess you get someone with cocaine or someone that ended up with speed or whatever, and that stuff started going around, industrial plants and all over the place.
Wow.
But once that cocaine came out, people started lacing speed with it and other stuff with it.
Yep.
And then drugs became much more acceptable. And Tom got into the pills, the Vicodins, the Percocets, et cetera, and then on to Oxycontin. He got Oxycontins from a doctor after a rollerblading accident. And that was Katie bar the door after that. And he moved on from that to heroin.
Oh,
He
wow.
spent several years. He spent several years as a heroin addict and lived a life that was productive and loving. And he battled it back and forth. He'd stay clean for fairly long period of time, and then relapse and back and forth. But in the meantime, he had a life. He'd go to take his girlfriends to church. He'd go do all his whatever work he could do. He participated. He was a functioning addict. After several attempts at rehab at all types of different facilities that we put him in, even out of state. He moved to California for a period of time. So he would sober up and do quite well for extended periods of time, and then relapse from one thing or another. Either I would say stress is a big pusher towards relapse, doubt, which causes a huge amount of stress,
Yes.
uncertainty, and the ability to take a great deal of pleasure. Say screw this. I'm going to rebel against the norm, and I'm just going to take my pleasure for myself because I have to. And it's a strange compulsive feeling to be that needy for something so selfish.
Yes.
It's warping your perspective in your brains.
Yeah.
In your compulsions are driving your free will. So your free will is no longer so free,
No.
and you lose it in degradations. And as you degrade your free will and your judgment, you start to change your personality somewhat. And everything becomes a little bit more self-centered. How am I going to get enough to get my stuff? How am I going to be able to get enough? I can't work enough, but how am I going to get enough money to get the drugs that I need? How am I going to do that trickily?
Yeah.
Where did all that money go? What happened to this? And everything gets harder to put together. And then, eventually you find out what's going on and confront it and get clean again, and try again. And each one of these tries was, some success, some failure, but during it all, there's still life and fun and laughter and everything. It's not like you're in jail in some type of hell. You're trying to work through your problems. You're trying to get in control of yourself. Of course you're under stress because you want to quit, and people are bugging you to quit. If they know about it, they're really after you to quit. But nobody is at that time is aware that there's a monster out there that's going to come in some back door through some little pill or some little powder and just snuff out your life like you're not anything, like stepping on a bug. There's nothing. There was no violence, no uh, explosions, no confrontation, no, nothing. Just like spraying bug repellent on a bug and killing it. It's cowardly, selfish, and evil. And this, so Tom gets killed this way by a drug dealer who buys acetyl fentanyl from the Zhang drug trafficking organization in China directly. And through the great work of the Akron Police Department, I was out of town in Florida having fun, scuba diving, running up and down the beach. My wife Valerie was at home. Tommy was at home, and she had just taken him to see the doctor to get a checkup. Start working on his problems again and everything else. He gets out of the car, goes in the house, waves bye, mom, and then she gets a call saying that he hasn't come out of the bathroom in a few hours
Oh, wow.
from his roommates. So she went over there, got the door open partially, found him dead on the floor, and left him. She didn't touch him. And she
Right.
went and got the paramedics and the police, and they did the proper forensics, and they got the samples of the drug. Um, he had done enough to kill many, 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 many people of the acetyl fentanyl that was given him.
Wow.
This is a very
Wow.
powerful analog of fentanyl. And
Was it in a pill form
so
or was it in a different?
powder. It was
Okay.
in powder form, and Tom thought he was going to do heroin.
Okay.
He thought he was going to shoot up a little bit of heroin. He's getting ready to go back into rehab. Looked like heroin. Thought got it from somebody that he knew. And this fellow had bought it from the Zhang drug trafficking organization through the mail from China. And with the excellent work of the Akron Police Department, the DEA, and the Justice Department, they put together a case and indicted the Zhangs in 2018 for Tom's murder and another Akronite.
Wow.
And so they went to the Ministry of Justice. They flew to the Ministry of Justice in China, and Matt Cronin and the DEA, whose name will come back to me in just a minute, went there, prosecuted the Zhangs for 3 days. No, and the Zhangs had operated a distribution center in New England where they were shipping it all over the United States.
Oh, my.
So the guy that was running that operation was almost made it to Canada. So they caught him there. The Zhangs were not in the country. And we went over and prosecuted the Zhangs. I mean, the United States. I didn't go. And the After 3 days of deliberation, the Ministry of Justice set the Zhangs free. So 60 Minutes goes over. Bob Anderson goes over at 60 Minutes, and he confronts Dr. Zhang in the marketplace and says, "What do you say to the children in the to the parents of the children in the United States that you're murdering?" Uh, and at that time, Bob Anderson gets accosted by the Chinese secret police and run out of the country. His visa
Whoa.
taken away, and he's expelled from the country. So the Zhangs are now in Mexico mass producing fentanyl along with the cartels. And as a example, I have sued the Zhangs in Akron Municipal Court and have a judgment against them. And I'm trying to concoct a way to turn it into a class action suit and implicate the Chinese government. So
Ooh.
I can take all of the parties like myself and tie them into a class action suit and go after the money that the Treasury can sanction from the government of China for the hell that they've unleashed on us. That's just a tactic. I don't know if it'll work. I'm not after the money, but I know that's what they were after, and that's all they cared about. I'll burn that money before I let those sons of devils have it. So,
Yep. Understand. Wow.
so
When?
after that, I studied fentanyl and what its implications could be. Um, my background is in polymer science, so I already knew that, hey, this stuff is made out of, the same stuff pretty close to epoxy or to, all these different chemicals, polyurethane for certain, and it was pretty evident that there was no limit to the amount that could be made and distributed. And as I saw this unfolding, I saw that exactly what's happening. And I looked for solutions to stop this. And I was walking down the railroad tracks with my older brother, who's my partner. He says, you need to call a weapon of mass destruction. I sort of laughed at him. And he says, no, I mean it. I said, God dang it. I wish he'd never told me that. So so that was all his role was. He didn't have to do any more work. Just come up with that bright idea. Okay? Hey partner, thanks. Hey, let's go to the moon. Okay, you build a rocket. Okay, got it. So I began to investigate it, and I looked at the law, the power, and the effect that this could possibly have. And I thought, this is a great way to jump ahead, to cut out a lot of time and to save a lot of lives, because we can cut this material off at the source. It's not being generated here in the United States. It's coming in from off of our borders through this known route that we can stop. And we can. But they didn't want to take that responsibility or that duty for people they still saw as complicit in their own deaths and misbehaving and being invaluable, not valuable,
Right.
unworthy of their attention because of this high amount of stigma that's associated with drug addiction. But this is killing people that have no drug addictions whatsoever, and it creates the fastest onset rather of drug addiction of any of the opioids that have ever been introduced. So you have a chemical that's designed to do what it's doing, and the Chinese in the opium wars got to the point where they went and slaughtered their own addicts on the waterfronts. They the English got in a fight with them and then started blowing them up, and they had the opium wars, and that's how the saying came, for all the tea in China, because they were pushing the opium over to the West because of the tea trade. And they wanted the tea for, England wanted the tea and sort of the rest of the world. And so they brought opium to China in order to extort the tea. Really, and it devastated China. They went from being the world leader, global world leader, to number three within, I think it was like 50 years or so.
Wow.
So it took them right out of position. So here we have the 21st century opium war, and they think that, this is tit for tat. You did it to us, gives us our justification to do it to you. And, you have a civilization there, or a society that's extremely family strong, loving, kind, socially active, just a wonderful people. The Chinese people are gracious, they're generous, they're communal. The government is a total different animal of rough and
Yes.
disdainful and steely, in many ways evil. So you have a whole people of billions enslaved by an iron fist.
Mm.
And this iron fist is indoctrinating people to a belief that there should be followers. And we're facing a nexus on the planet that's this fentanyl is just the tip of the iceberg, but it's the telltale of what will come. So we have this mass fentanyl poisoning that's already killing more people than killed in Vietnam and World War II. It's
I don't think
destroying
people
all of the.
understand. I don't think people understand the magnitude.
They don't understand magnitude because it's not being spoken of. This is the quiet thing. You
Yes.
can't get ABC News. I was on 60 Minutes. I've gone back to 60 Minutes 4 or 5 times. Come on, let's do another story.
Right.
They're
No, they
scared.
don't, they are, and they don't want to talk about it.
They're scared. They're scared. They're scared. They're scared that, once again, maybe they're afraid that I might inspire somebody to do something stupid. But listen, if chances are 1 in a million, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. That's a fact. Within so many years, I think it's 12 years. If it's a chance in a million, it's going to happen within 12 years. Or there are
Wow.
all types of mathematical facts that points to this is how the likelihood is going to happen, going to happen, going to happen. And we don't need to put up with this for generations
Right.
as we sort our way through and say, oh, we don't need another war on drugs. We need a war on this poison. Okay. What happened to your war on drugs is you gave up. You shouldn't have given up. We wouldn't be facing this right now if you would have fought the war on drugs properly. If you'd have stayed on course, but instead you think, oh, everything's okay and people will take care of this or whatever, and then you get the mega drug and look at all this. The devastation's beyond anything that the country's ever seen. The amount of money lost is unfathomable, but the broken hearts are they're a shame. They're a shame for our country to allow this to happen to our citizens. They should be ashamed of themselves, especially since they knew that this could happen. They should have known, they should have stopped it, and they could have done it years and years ago. And I'm not blaming one party over another. They're both aware. They've both been in power during the start of this and up until now. And the people who have the real say, the military and everything else, they're sitting on their hands. They're remiss in their duties, and they know that this is a potential and they can stop it. But I wonder what that'll cost. Nothing compared to the trillions and trillions of dollars of life that's lost. And if you were just looking at it mathematically, that loss of gross domestic product would pay for a golden vessel to go interdict the material. There's nothing that's more valuable than what we're losing. So I'm fighting to enlighten people that these are the mathematical facts, that the poison's becoming more prevalent. And as that happens, the rate of incidence goes up. And this is just a simple known thing that we're coming to an intersection point. And, people who are familiar with asymmetric warfare will point this out as the first key to the advancement of asymmetric warfare. Misinformation, poison the public, spread addiction, spread disease, and they've already done two of those. COVID and the fentanyl, I think, are both asymmetric warfare. So
I would agree
think
with that. I would totally agree with that. And they talk about having another bug coming soon, and
of course,
where will that be? And it's all intentional.
yes, it's
And,
intentional.
and I believe they want to wipe out not only the entire population, but first and foremost, the young people who, they think they can just party. They think, oh, let's just take this pill and, have a good time. And it's not like years ago where you could, take a little of this or a little of that, and you were still standing. But now you try that now, and you could die within hours or instantly.
Yes. For what? For all the things you could have been and all the things you were working on, what you meant to everyone.
Yes.
There are more neurons in your head than there are stars in the universe. And each one of those is more complicated. And one of the things that people don't understand is that all the information that you bring or have or do lasts forever, because information can't be destroyed. So your life and what you become throughout your whole life and everything else, and you die, that thing that was you, that information of every single thing about you goes on forever and ever and ever. That's a matter of physics. That's a fact. So whatever people's conceptualization of soul is or whatever, you have meaning eternally.
Yes.
Because you existed. And you can't unexist. No matter what, you can't unexist. You can die and change your form and do whatever, but your existence and your power and your energy will persist throughout the universe forever. So it's a unique point of view, and I know I'm a strong believer in God. I hope He has something besides a hello and goodbye.
As am I. I believe, well, I've spoken to so many people who have had near death experiences, and they all basically tell you the same thing. They went to the light, and once they got there, God, whomever said to them, sorry, not your turn yet. Go back. You have more things to accomplish.
Yeah, right? we're just giving you we
a little taste. It's just a little taste. Yeah. But give it a taste to look at it. Yeah.
St. Pete was on the sauce.
Yeah. And so go back, tell everybody what you saw, and keep going. You got extra to do. So
right.
and I can also tell you that when my Nana was dying, I'll never forget this. She sat up in bed and she said, "Oh, I never thought it would look like this. It's so beautiful." And she died like within minutes later. Yeah. So that's all we got out of her. I don't know really what the rest was, but just the thought that she said that out loud and to let us know. And I have to tell you, it's quite comforting.
My father called me to his room. He was 46 years old. He looked at
Ooh,
he'd been
young.
going through this religious experiences. He looked like he was in great shape. And he looked at me. He said, I'm going to fulfill my quest, my search. He said, I'm going to die now. I'm going to go to heaven. I miss you. He said, I love you. And I'm like, what? He's sitting on the edge of the bed. And then he started dying. I said, what the hell? You kick around? So I went and got my brother, and we both worked on him, but he died of what may have been, it was probably just a massive heart attack of some sort. Boom.
But he wasn't
And
ill. He wasn't ill.
no,
Oh my goodness. That must
he'd
have been
come
a
back
real
from this.
shocker.
Uh, it changed everything for me. Of course, my brother and I switched our plans, and we went. We were already working with him full time, but we had to support our little sisters and brothers and my mother, and uh, then just about 6 months later, I married my wife,
Oh,
and we had a little kid, Tommy, right away. So I just turned 21 when I had Tommy, and we were extremely close because he was, my first kid. I was just turned 21. I threw him in bed with me all the time. Like, come on, I was
yeah.
just a kid myself. Oh boy, somebody give me my own personal friend to play with. Here, let me teach you everything I know. It was wonderful.
Will you
But
will you touch on just a little bit about your grieving process after Tommy died?
uh, it was avoided. I took care of other people's grief.
Yep.
I tried to manage the my other four children, my wife, the extended family, keep all that in control. And then I just after that, I just started, the ceremony's over, everything's done, and then I just started drinking more heavily. Drank a lot and didn't take care of myself. So I was deteriorating down to just health got worse and worse and worse. I had been pretty physically fit as a young man,
Mhm.
and was able to do whatever pretty much I wanted physically. If I could climb any kind of tree, or ski, or just any physical sport or activity, box, all types of different things. And then after Tom died, I gained an excessive amount more weight, drank a tremendous amount more, and got into terrible shape, to the point where later on I had to have 5 stents put in my heart.
Oh, wow.
I lost 50. I lost 50 pounds. I quit drinking, and I can do just about anything. I have a torn rotator cuff that I didn't have fixed, but I can do chin ups, and I
Wow.
can run, and I can do all young man kind of stuff, flips off the diving board, things like that.
Wow,
But
that's wonderful.
I know it's a gift. It was a gift given to me, I believe, because so I could be empowered enough to do this work.
I
So
wouldn't
I
doubt it.
regained my physical abilities. Besides things that are just torn off or destroyed from past mishaps, but I have some permanent injuries. But overall, um, I was reconditioned in order to take on this fight. That's what I believe,
Hmm.
and they'll probably kill me right after I'm done.
No, no. Oh, no, don't say that.
That's it. That's it to you, man. That's before you get started in some other crap.
But there's
Because you know
so
that
much.
God
There's...
knows I'll go back to making trouble. I believe.
Aw.
So when it's successful, and I do believe it will be successful, and it may not come out exactly the way I want it, but I think that with enough voices like ours together, and all the Michael Gray, Jaime Puerta, uh, Matt Capilouto,
Right.
all of those people that are working on this together, but separately, Andrea Thomas.
Yes.
There's just so many of them. They're doing really, really good work trying to change things for other people.
Yes.
They're like angels, that saw the angels, but they're they're angels, and
Right.
I super appreciate all the different angles that they take and perspectives that they have, because it's going to take all of us. You can't, you have to have influence in so many ways, to
Yes.
get so many ears to listen. There's little keys to each one, and maybe an inflection, or maybe a certain way that somebody says something that, allows them to accept it a little bit easier. If it comes from a friendlier voice, or if it comes from one that's, more like your own, or whatever, it sometimes pushes aside the preconceptions of what we're fighting against.
And you mentioned you got a Freedom of Information Act.
Yes, the Freedom of Information Act. We'd actually seen the document that came in the Freedom of Information Act from the DHS that was leaked to Task and Purpose some time ago, about Jim McDonnell and the FBI meeting about fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, which it is, and they know what it is. What's really interesting about it is they served the FOIA with just the one piece of paper that's the memo from Jim McDonnell that was already leaked, but they didn't have any of the emails or any of the other things in the file that should have been there. What the
Wow.
follow-up was, what the people were saying during the meeting, what the responses were, what emails went between the different departments, everything else that should have been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of discussion with the FBI. Well, how would this be? What would happen with the military? All the different things, all gone. Just one piece of paper is all they sent.
Wow. How
And
interesting.
yes, how interesting. It's because of their reaction. Now, I know that DHS has a model of fentanyl being deployed as a weapon of mass destruction. I had a friend of mine tell me that for some time now. And there are
Okay.
all kinds of ex-DHS people running around that have all kinds of information and know all kinds of different things about whatever. I don't know what they know, but I know that they know something, and
Which is not
um,
good.
which is not good.
Good.
Not good, because they're all running around. They're all running around scared, and there were some really interesting groups like Credo, Citizens Response for Drug Overdose. Excellent, excellent group. Another one is Taco, which is Team Awareness Company, but that used to be Trojan Awareness, and that was USC and UCLA, and that was their um, Narcan and fentanyl test strip distribution to the students to save their lives,
Oh
and that
my.
has taken off. That has taken off to all types of different universities. So that organization was successful, and that was put together by a couple of neuro scientists at USC, and a brother and sister who had set that up originally. And now they can go on, and you can get fentanyl test strips, you can get Narcan, you can get whatever, just by little apps on your phone that they set this up, and it's saving tons and tons of lives.
That's
And
great.
in spite of all this good work, people with Narcan information, they're saving tons and tons of lives. I mean, they're saving hundreds and hundreds of thousands of lives. This is going on daily. Narcan being delivered every night by these first responders. Something here, boom, 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 boom. I mean,
Wow.
thousands and thousands and thousands of them falling here, there, everywhere, all over the place, and they're saving them. The impact would be so much worse without it. So much worse. And that's that's another thing. It's when does this go beyond what all the epidemiological results would be? When does that epidemiological result really start breaking loose? I think it's pretty soon. I think we're not that far away from seeing real mass casualty events, either through incidental exposure or on purpose. This is going to infiltrate the air, food, or water supply, no matter what. I'm afraid of it getting anywhere from it shows up in a potato chip company because there's no security and they throw it in the salt, or it gets into any form of food, water, and air. Both of them that can be emulsified and put in the water system. And recently, they've come out with sewage uh, testing that shows the amount of fentanyl that's in the wastewater. And this number is growing at a staggering number.
Wow.
So municipalities are starting to put these testing devices in. I think the first one's in Virginia. They're showing New York City. There's going to be different ones put into different places to show how this is exploding in different areas. People don't even know they're getting it, and that's what's even going to be worse. It's like, well, why? What do I need? What do I need? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
I just don't. I'm just my chemistry just keeps going around in my head, and the things that I've seen in my life, and how evil could be turned into such an immediate action without any fire, explosions, lights, noise, nothing. It just goes quiet, and that's what I'm. And as I said, and if it gets that radical or something goes crazy, and you have people who are saying they're from, let's say, they do a attack, and they say we're from Black Lives Matter, but they're not, or they say they're from the Proud Boys, or they're from a left wing group, a right wing group, a whatever.
Yeah, but
They
it's
can
not.
say that's who's doing it, but they didn't have anything to do with it. Just blame it on them.
Yeah, sure.
You can blame it on anybody, you know, and just start chaos because it's there. I mean, how much? And so many people know chemistry, so it's the opportunity, you know, the motivation are both there. So it's what unfortunately we have to face. And for me, I think that there are solutions. If you uh, look at the DHS MQL master question list, where they go through the dangers of fentanyl, the DHS has written this document for first responders to say what happens if fentanyl gets released. They're well aware of the dangers of this.
Hmm.
You know, so they're just they need the uproar of the brokenhearted
Yes.
to change their minds. They have to take the proper action. And we have the military might, we have the intelligence, we can cut off their money supply, we can cut off their chemical supply, we can cut off their air. You know,
But,
we can make this stop.
but they have to be willing to do it.
They have to be willing to do it, and they have to be willing to do it continuously. And you'll save trillions and trillions of dollars a year, and just in the heartache, they don't have one clue about what that's doing to our gross
Right.
domestic gross domestic product.
Yes,
People can't do when you lose somebody, you can't do stink. You have a hard time putting your slippers on.
it's true. I don't think, you know, I don't think there's ever been a really true accounting, so to speak, in
He froze
HR.
up.
There you go. We both were freezing. I don't think that there's ever been a true accounting in any HR department that talks about the um, how difficult it is to be productive after you've lost someone, especially a child. They don't talk about these things that much. They send you off to a little, counseling group, and you're supposed to be okay very shortly. And then it's all about you just getting back to work, and that's it. And life doesn't go like that. Life
Listen,
doesn't work like that. And the managers have no clue how to help their employees. None.
I've lost friends and family.
Yep.
I've seen things I've seen things that make your socks roll up and down. But nothing nothing destroys your self or your family like the loss of a child, or a
Yes.
young sibling or whatever. It's just not acceptable for your body and your mind and everything else. And
Yeah.
it definitely changes you. And there's a great deal of trauma. And I pray for everyone that has to go through that. I think that, I believe in God because the things are just too mysteriously fantastic for it to be self-causing. So I just, of course I had went to a Catholic grade school with Dominican nuns.
Oh,
So I
okay.
had
I went to Catholic schools too, all the way through high school and then Jesuit two colleges.
okay, so you know
I
exactly
mean,
what I'm
wait,
talking
oh
about.
yeah.
Oh, those Jesuits were hard dudes.
Oh, I
They were
know.
those
So
guys were
I had them in
tough, man.
undergraduate and I had them when I went for my MBA. Yeah.
They're tough. I loved them though. I still have good friends who were priests. He's he was the counselor at the jail. Is what he deserved to.
But you have to remember that all these priests, unfortunately, whether they're in grade school or the nuns or the Jesuits, none of them know what it's like to lose a child.
No,
None of them know what it's like to
no,
lose a spouse, right?
no, no.
Exactly.
They
And
don't know
and
that,
because of
and they
it,
don't know and they've sacrificed the love of having that. I'd rather have loved and lost than never have loved at all.
I
That's most
agree.
certain. And
I
honest to
agree.
God, I'd rather have Tommy for that amount of time than than not have him at all, not have to know him or go through it. And
And
what it turned me into
unfortunately,
or
I
what it do?
mean, they can be great people, but sometimes they say the stupidest things.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, you're
The
supposed to know how to comfort somebody in that zone, and they don't.
no,
They don't.
no, not a chance. No. If, Just it'd be better just say, hey, you want instead of that collar, why don't you come over here and let me get these around you here? How's that?
Yes. Yes. It's been, yeah.
So we're in a solvable problem that we don't have to live with. This doesn't have to go from fentanyl to the nitazines to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing, and the people screaming about war on drugs. This isn't a war on drugs. This is a war on murder. These kids are getting murdered.
Yep.
You know, if they wouldn't have surrendered in the war on drugs, maybe we wouldn't be fighting this right now. If they hadn't given up, surrendered.
Right.
So that's just a different perspective. They permitted it with and this is still being permitted. This isn't a matter of incarcerating Black people. They're getting killed at the highest rate by far, even as underreported as it is. So it's picking on the disadvantaged and the people who are already being marginalized. They're the first. They're the first to go. Those who have substance use disorder, those who are poor, those who are needy, those are the ones getting killed the fastest. And then you have the higher class people who are, recreational drug users. That's a much smaller percentage.
Right.
We're we can't continue. We have to fight it, and we have to. Everyone has to raise their voice, not just some crazy polymer scientist, trying to push some what seems like a untenable idea of a weapon of mass destruction. But it wasn't for me to choose titles. I had to go to the law books and say, which one can I insert in order to get something accomplished? And this is the one I saw that would be the most effective and be the least amount of equivocating or I should say cheating. They like to not do the whole job. They prefer to not be held accountable. This is something that has to be finished,
Right.
not toyed with.
Well, how many times have you heard, like uh, about, oh, let's do another research study, right? Oh, we have to do another research study to see how this will
I
all come out. And I'm sitting around going, uh, we already know the issue. We already know the problem. We don't have to research a damn thing. We need to get it done.
I totally agree, and more information is always good, especially when you're going downstream and you're trying to figure out what to do with the damaged people that have been affected by this. They can study that for quite a long time.
Right.
But right now we're against the clock, and all this argument and everything else, we're just getting closer and closer to what I know is coming, and so do they, because if it's a probability, if it's a possibility over time, the longer the time goes, the greater the ability for the incident to occur.
Right.
So as I said, 1 in a million is going to happen within 12 years or something like that, but it might be in 12 seconds. It's within that span of time is
Right.
the incident will take place depending on incident count. So that there's a window of where this is going to happen, but you don't know where in that window it's going to happen because of the randomness of the act. But you know it's going to happen. So that's how they can calculate, probabilities of events. And this probability event calculation comes out extremely badly.
Oh
So,
my. Well, Jim, I have to say I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, even though it's depressing. but but it's so necessary because people don't understand the magnitude of this, you know?
no,
I mean, years
that's
ago, when we were growing up, everybody tried drugs recreationally. Oh, let's see how this feels. Let's take this joint. Then let's try Coke. Let's do this. Now, all it takes is once, all it takes is once.
yes,
And if you take a pill that's either completely fentanyl that looks like the oxycodone you thought you were getting, or it's, a couple of granules is stuck in your line of coke or in heroin, next thing you know, that's it. And you didn't
yes,
even know that that was going to happen. It wasn't on your radar. And so
no,
I find that in speaking to all my guests on this series, um, if there's anything that I want people to understand is that and I've said this several times, the era or the years of experimental drug use is over. It's over. And
yes,
you either get that or you don't. And if you don't get that and you still feel compelled to feel free enough to go after whatever it is you think you're getting that you're not, you're putting yourself at the danger of dying. I mean,
right.
it's
Get
like
test
nothing,
strips.
it's nothing in between, nothing in between.
In so many cases, that's true. But the people who are using, they can get test strips, and they can look out after themselves, do it when they're together, keep the Narcan around. You have people that have such substance use disorder that they're living in tent cities in this horrible, terrible, it's not like hell, but a purgatorial life. It's like being in purgatory.
Oh
It's not
my.
quite in hell. You're not quite there yet. Jeez. And they're, taking a risk every time they're doing it, and they want to get to the edge. That's where your free will has been compromised by this poison, to where it compels you to take risks with your own life that your own body would tell you not to do. There's nothing else that does this, that breaks your free will to the point where your compulsions override your ability to withstand it. And that's what people can't understand. Why can't they just quit? God dang, man. It's not a monkey on your back. It's a flamethrower.
Wow.
So we'll take the right courses, do the right moves, and hope to God that the politicians and I would think that just the people in the military would step up and tell the people in charge, listen, we've got a national security problem here. We need to take care of this in the most upfront manner, and let our adversaries know that we're not going to permit this. Because if we thought that the former terrorist attacks sent the ripples through the country that they did, especially 9/11, this is going to be. We can't allow it. We can't allow this to happen to our country, and we won't. I pray. So, thank you for what you're doing, all the lives and innocence and different things, the effect it'll have a ripple out there for you. And I really appreciate you putting this on and doing this kind of work and gathering this information,
And I
because
thank you.
it'll make a huge amount of impact later on.
Yeah, I think so too. And I appreciate you being with me
Well,
today.
my pleasure meeting you. Have a great night's sleep after that. And I'll send you.
Yes, I want you to send me the
Okay, thank
links.
you.
I want you to send me the links, and we'll put them at
Okay.
the show notes. And I want people to remember to go to Families Against Fentanyl. Is it .org, I think?
Uh, Families Against Fentanyl.com, I believe. Maybe it's .org.
No, it's org. I'm
Boy,
looking at it right now. And we'll put Jim's
thank
info.
goodness for my staff.
It's late. It's late. That's our
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm old.
Oh, okay. And if this has been impactful to you, please share this video with others. Let them know what is going on, and subscribe and comment and let us know what you thought and how you feel about this whole issue. We really appreciate it. So thank you
Oh,
again.
go on my website and sign the petition just
Yes,
for fun.
yes. So familiesagainstfentanyl.org. And
Yes.
there's a
Sign
petition
the
that you can
petition.
sign, yes, to you get the politicians to do what they need to do.
Yes.
Thank you. Have a wonderful
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
You
God bless.
too. Thank you. Thank you, Mary. It's my pleasure meeting you. You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
You too. Bye.